Who will be our next president? The media turned to polls.
Donald Trump is in first place at 39%.
But how likely is it that polls will predict who will win? In the last Republican primary, Rick Perry led the polls, then Herman Cain, then Newt. But they didn't win.
I accept your nomination for president.
Maybe instead of polls, we should pay more attention to pundits.
We're going to win by a landslide.
Oops. Pundits get things wrong constantly, too.
Romney big. Not even close.
Turns out pundits are not terribly accurate.
Economist Robin Hanson studies an alternative, the betting odds. There's something about putting money on the line that cuts through bloviating. In a bar or at a party, people often make bold statements.
You're talking, you're pontificating, and somebody challenges you and says, you want to bet on that? And all of us, as soon as somebody says, you want to bet on that, we pause and we go, do I really believe that?
If you put your money where your mouth is, you are more careful. And when lots of people put their money on the line on sites called prediction markets, like this one in the United States, this one in Europe, the resulting odds are more accurate than anything else. Unfortunately, they post these odds in confusing gambling formulas. So my producer and I created this site, electionbettingodds.com, that states the odds more clearly. And who's winning?
We're going to win. We're going to win.
Despite Donald Trump's confidence and lead in all national polls for the Republican nomination, Marco Rubio is well ahead in the betting. Trump is second, Ted Cruz third. For the Democratic nomination, the bettors say Hillary is the overwhelming favorite, and she's also favored to become president. Now, if you think these odds are wrong, you can make money by being right.
It's gone well for Rubio.
This was a debate-watching party hosted by political prediction site Predicted. People bet on candidates during the debate.
Actually, 1920's down. He was at 23 earlier today.
It's like a stock market for elections. And like stocks, candidates' chances change constantly.
We get traders who are tweeting back and forth about who's making the most money.
I put in Rubio in the cab. I was making my bets before I got here.
I'm a junkie, political junkie, so I love it.
This is my fantasy baseball.
You can play. If, say, you think Trump is more likely than this to become president, place a bet. If he wins, you'll make about $10 for every dollar you bet.
Yeah, I'm actually doing pretty well. I've, maybe tripled or quadrupled what I put in.
It literally pays to be right.
It turns out that competitive prediction markets like this are much more accurate than polls.
Consistently, test after test, the markets forecasted elections more accurately than polls.
In November, Ben Carson surged to first place in polls, but the bettors knew better. The odds had him at just 9%. Now he's below 1%. In 2012, when these candidates surged to first place in polls, the prediction markets correctly said, no, Romney will win. It also correctly predicted results in most every state. In 2012, every state but one.
The market is consistently as accurate or more accurate than the other sources. You can take that to the bank.
Bets on the prediction market in trade even predicted when Saddam Hussein would be captured. Right before his hideout was found, the odds on that date tripled in price.
And Saddam Hussein was found hiding at the bottom of the hole.
InTrade accurately predicted American Idol winners and Oscar winners.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Part of what makes prediction markets work is the wisdom in crowds. Some people betting here may be fools making bad bets, but the crowd of people probably won't. You see that on the TV show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Night Owl or Rorschach?
Can I ask the audience?
You want to ask the audience?
Contestants can ask the audience or an expert. The experts do pretty well. They get the answer right 65% of the time. But the audience gets it right 91% of the time.
Yes! $50,000!
Political prediction markets have a long history. 100 years ago, they were popular.
They weren't really legal for the mostly, but they were reported. Newspapers reported on them because that's what they had to report on.
These were bookies, I guess.
Yes. In fact, there was more money trading back and forth in the election markets than in the stock markets around 1900. So this was a big deal.
And the predictions were pretty accurate.
Of course.
They correctly predicted FDR's election, and McKinley's, and many more. But sadly, our government often bans gambling. Here, officials take an axe to casino equipment.
It turns out that all of our familiar financial institutions were once banned as illegal gambling. Stock markets were banned, commodity markets were banned, insurance was banned. So we have a long history of having things banned as gambling.
Intrade was banned too. The world no longer benefits from its predictions. Recently, however, the government granted a few exceptions to its bans for sites like Predicted.
How come these guys got a yes and the rest of those guys got a no? You don't know.
The bureaucrats keep changing their minds. 12 years ago, they asked Robin Hanson to create a market that would predict world events.
The Department of Defense heard that prediction markets were interesting, that they were doing powerful things. And they said, show us. Show us it works for stuff we do. We were going to predict events in the Middle East.
So immediately people started to bet on...
We never got that far.
It's ridiculous and it's grotesque.
The idea of people betting on when there might be terrorism horrified politicians.
I think this is unbelievably stupid. It needs to be stopped immediately.
And it was, the very next day.
The Secretary of Defense in front of Congress declares the project dead.
So the Pentagon is deprived of predictions that might save lives.
People are just wary of what if we bet on death.
So politicians protect us from truth.
Politicians are very adept at watching out for things that might bother voters and just keeping them away.